there may have been a board-level coup to remove the Director General, Tim Davie. Well, I put that theory to a man who operated at the heart of the state broadcaster for a long time, Mark Damazer, former controller of both BBC Radio 4 and also deputy editor of BBC News. And he's still got many close ties to people in management positions. So did he think there was anything in the coup theory?
I doubt that's the right way of interpreting this. A coup would imply that a group of like-minded people got together in a back room, possibly including outsiders, politicians and commentators and so on, and decided that they wanted to remove the head of news and the head of the BBC, the Director General, and that they were going to follow a stratagem to do that, and it was all concerted and neatly worked out, and they've got what they wanted. So that's the notion of an organised coup. That's a very different question from whether everybody on the board fully understood the stakes here and whether enough was done to try and ensure that Tim Davie stayed on, which is what I wished would have happened. But I doubt very much that there's been this kind of organised, brilliantly plotted mastermind which has led to the demise of these two executives.
Tim Davie had endured weeks and months of incredible pressure. Do you think in the end it's the intolerable business of being Director General, being kind of the nation's whipping boy, that meant he'd had enough and he wanted to go?
I think that's overwhelmingly likely to be the case. And you have to ask yourself now about this job and whether the constant wave after wave hitting you in the chest. I don't know that it's a deliberate strategy to make the job undoable and destroy the BBC, but what I do know is that the relentlessness of it and the disproportion of it and the irrationality of at least some of it, I'm not saying all of it, but some of it, when it's combined with regularity, velocity and intensity of a news cycle and the social media offshoots of that news cycle, make the job unbelievably difficult. And I know Tim pretty well, and he's a tough-minded individual. And the fact that after 5 years, even though the board wanted him to stay on, we now learn that Tim felt that enough was enough, speaks volumes for what he had to endure. And okay, he was getting a decent salary, no question, and the BBC has to be accountable, no question. And it's quite right that he goes to Parliament often, no question. But this constant sense of one particular error being made, and, you know, there are errors, let's talk about it, fine, they're errors. But at each point, it's surrounded by an atmosphere of end-of-the-worldness. You know, whatever the error might be, you know, whether it's Trump, unquestionably a mistake, and, you know, a significant mistake, obviously shouldn't have happened. Or the wretched business at Glastonbury, really, you know, a mistake, no question about it. The Gaza documentary earlier in the year, more complicated, but okay, mistakes made. But each of them is propelled forward into being a 5-act opera. And there are questions to be asked, and yes, we need to find out who made the decisions. It's all perfectly proper, but the thunderous noise that surrounds each of these, as if it was the hallmark of the BBC, that it blundered around from mistake to mistake, and all the good things that happen, of which there are really a great many every day, just happen by accident. I mean, they're not there because anybody's any good. They're sort of random particles that create the BBC. And, you know, we should be very, very amazed that the BBC can do good stuff, because if you read the kind of noise around the BBC and listen to it, the BBC is obviously full of noodleheads who know nothing. Well, it's not full of noodleheads who know nothing. They're really quite good people most of the time, and they make a lot of very good decisions. And
speaking of noodleheads, I'd like your reaction, Mark, to the extraordinary international attacks on the BBC we've seen this afternoon. Donald Trump's White House saying that it's dishonest and dishonourable and threatening legal action. We've had the Kremlin weighing in and saying the BBC is disgraceful and its coverage of Ukraine was disgraceful. We've had the Israeli government in Tel Aviv weighing in, saying much the same thing about Gaza.
Well, I don't celebrate any of those developments. I think the BBC's worldwide standing is a major asset both for the BBC and, as it happens, for the UK. And so the extent to which its reputation has been damaged by all of this is...
So it's a blow for all of us, really.
It's a blow for all of us. Now, the question is whether the BBC will recover from it, and also to make it clear that the fact that these three particular governments are complaining does not mean that these three particular governments, in a general sense, are right. I mean, Trump, fine, there was a mistake in a documentary about him. Please don't run away with the notion that Trump's behaviour on January the 6th, 2021, which was part of the focus of this Panorama, makes him the Mahatma Gandhi of the modern world, and that his reputation has been trashed accordingly. The BBC made a bad mistake. They should have apologised for it much earlier. Game, set and match, fine. But, you know, Trump's reputation behaving as if this documentary had made this fine, upstanding champion of democracy as evinced by his performance on January the 6th, and had turned him into something completely different. That's just obviously not what that story is about. Mistake was made. It's damaged our reputation, certainly in part of America, bad thing. Right. I mean, Israel is very complicated. The Israeli government and lots of pro-Israel groups in the UK have felt for a long time that the BBC is being unfair. I understand that debate and its coordinates. I don't agree with their overall judgment. And Putin, well, how can I put it? I mean, Putin will say what he will say. I take his assessments of the BBC's impartiality, if I may say so, with quite a large grain of salt. Make that not a grain, make that a whole barrelful.
A barrelful, very good. Final area of conversation, Mark, what next? I mean, it's clear that the BBC, to get out of this, requires an extraordinary person to come in as leader, somebody with very, very good managerial skills, a great sense of grip, fantastic personal resilience, eloquence, ability to deal with a storm of criticism, all of that. It's going to be very, very hard in the circumstances to find such a person.
So I think it's a great worry. I think, I've known quite a few of the Director Generals, some of them really rather well. I could make a case for all of them. It is a very, very tough job. I'm not denying that they don't get status out of it and that they don't get well paid and all the rest of it. I do worry now about whether a field will present themselves, because if you know that vilification and sacking is certain at the point at which you start, there are only so many number of centre court tickets which mitigate. I mean, you can go in with a high duty and a sense of purpose. I'm absolutely convinced. I know him well enough to say that definitely applies to Tim Davie. Absolutely. It's a very significant salary. There is more money to be made elsewhere. It's a significant salary. But if you really know that at the end of it, it's 90% certain you're going to get trashed and vilified for mistakes which may not be your direct responsibility, where you've tried honourably to clear them up, sometimes not successfully, but where the threshold is so low for public tolerance and acceptance, and the physical wear and tear of it. I mean, it's a big organisation and it's pumping out stuff 24/7. And if you're responsible for all of it and you're surrounded by this clatter, thunder, din, disproportionate, and in my view, kind of Wagnerian unreasonableness at times, then Wagnerian in the sense of the scale, nothing to do with Wagner, then, it ends up being close to undoable, and very, very good people, I'm sure there are some out there, very, very good people won't throw their hat into the ring. So we're all diminished because the BBC matters, because we all own it, and it's a very, very big part of national public life.